everybody to integrate yourself. I'm your host, Allison Pillow, and you can find me at finalythrivingbook.com and pureenergypdx.com. Today, I'm here with a very special guest. Tanya Saunders is a certified life mastery consultant, breathwork facilitator, positive neuroplasticity and yoga psychology teacher, astrology, and author. A survivor of a life-threatening condition, necrotizing fasciitis. She is passionate about helping people live a vision, inspired and embodied life they love while they are living it. As a nurse, anesthesia, and I'm sorry, what is that word there? And
do you want me to chime in?
Yeah, what is that?
Anesthetist.
Anesthetist. I should have asked that before we started. That's okay. As a nurse anesthetist for over 2 decades, Tanya is always learning and teaching new ways to bridge science and metaphysics to empower people to live into their potential. She lives in DC with her husband, 3 kids, and 2 dogs. Welcome, Tanya, to the show. I'm so excited you're here. I really don't know a lot about your story, and reading that bio was like, wow, like I'd love to hear more about some of that. But you and I want to just let everybody know that I worked with you in person, not in person, but on Zoom at a breathwork session that was incredible. I had like a life-changing experience and a new relationship with how to direct the energy in my body. I realized that the breath is our tool for directing energy in our body and also moving things through and opening up for new possibilities. So I just was blown away after the session I did with you. So that's one of the reasons I really wanted to have you come on the show, because you are doing amazing work and it's very unique. And I'm very excited for you to share your experience with my audience.
First of all, thank you so much, and congratulations! And now I'm learning a new word, anesthetist. So
No.
that is something.
What is that? Yeah.
So nurse anesthetist, anesthesiologist, right? No, but that is a word that even people
that's what I thought
field,
it was.
People in the field have a hard time saying it. So I'm a nurse anesthetist. Work with anesthesiologists. You can work independently. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, that's definitely a tough word. But thank you again so much. I'm super pumped to be here. So excited, especially just like you said, because you experienced the power of breath work and what breath work does for us in being able to really direct our life, our energy, our life, our life force.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so powerful. It's more powerful than we realize. We really take our breath for granted, I think. And because I used to do that. And we don't realize the power in it, what we can do with it. And it's not just there to sustain life, it's there to really help us thrive, in our lives, and learn how to be more intentional with our lives and integrate our lives in many ways. So I'd love to get into that, but first I would love for you to share more about yourself, your experience, a lot of things I listed here, and then your fasciitis.
Oh man.
I did not know that you went through that.
Yeah, that was in 2009. So like where to start? There's so much good, beautiful nuggets that I hope for your audience to get with breath work, and how for what you do in this work, and really supporting people to thrive, and how they can use their breath again just to do that and to create really more harmony in their lives by integrating all that stops us, all of the humanness that we allow to block us from our potential. So my story is I've been a nurse anesthetist for over 2 decades, and about 6 years ago, I launched my first, home business. And when you launch a business that just guides you, it leads you, it's like this alchemist trail into self-development, which ends up being spiritual development, right?
Yeah.
And that's like the story how everything kind of unfolded. So I started this multi-level marketing skincare business, and within that business, it becomes like, why would somebody want to purchase from me and not that person? So that's why it started. So that's where a lot of the self-developmental, the podcasts, the courses, all that started to take place. And I even launched my own podcast. And within this own podcast, I launched with another mom who was in this space of, we've checked the boxes, like I have a good job,
Right.
I'm married, I have a partner, I have a home, I have children. Like, are we done? No, so we started this podcast called the Dream Board Social Club about how we can again use our dreams, the vision board, and really start to inspire women like us who kind of think you're checked off the boxes to really start to live more into their potential. And that's when I thought about having like this lifestyle entrepreneurship, right? And within that lifestyle entrepreneurship, I thought, oh, I want to be like a Goop, a Gwyneth Paltrow, and host some of these retreats. And then I thought, well, I kind of want to be able to provide some of that. And so I looked into life coaching, and it really wasn't quite the hit yet. I looked into like the life coach school, that amazing podcast with Brooke Castillo.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I did some of I think it's the scholarship, the scholarship program. And it wasn't that intuitive hit.
Mhm.
And then I looked into Samantha Skelly's Hungry for Happiness. That was her life coaching program. And that resonated with me because I'd had an eating disorder for over a decade prior to getting married. And so it just resonated with me, just, that emotional eating. And it still wasn't quite the hit. But because, once you sign up for something, you get those emails. They keep, and
Yeah.
you don't always open up your emails because your inbox is completely flooded. Well, it was just like one August summer day. And I just remember like just opening it. And she had in there, I'm launching a breathwork beta program. And there was just something about that. As a nurse anesthetist, I was like, wait, I control people's breathing. Like, what? It just didn't really make any sense, but I was really intrigued because it was like this focus of, I can help you stress less. I can help you with
Mhm.
your anxiety. And
That's huge.
as things are when they don't, make sense, they're intuitively for
Yeah.
you. I remember calling my husband. He's also a nurse anesthetist. And I'm like, I don't expect you to understand this, but could you please support me? I need like $6,000. I need to be in California, in San Diego for like a whole week. I'll try to figure out childcare. And somehow I figured it out and I went. And Allison, it was just like, as you now have experienced it, when I went, it honestly made zero sense. I didn't know who I was staying with. It could have been a total Craigslist killer. I
Mhm.
walked into this room and it was like 60 of us, mostly women. I think they were all women in that group from everywhere. And we all came together and I experienced my first live personal breath work. And I had never experienced anything like that in my life. I think at that time I was 45 or 46. And I just remember coming back to planet Earth from that experience. And I was diaphoretic. And it reminded me of that time when I had necrotizing fasciitis. When I had
Oh, yeah.
necrotizing fasciitis is that flesh eating bacteria. And I got it randomly. I don't know what it was, but it was in me in the hustle, perfect storm. I was 6 months postpartum. I was still breastfeeding and I was training for a marathon. And I had an infection in my arm. And in that space after I was diagnosed, we didn't know what it was. I had to go for emergency surgeries and it was like for a week long, because you don't know if you're going to lose your limb or if you're going to lose your life because it's septicemia, it's an infection in your blood.
Mhm.
But within that week, I just remembered so much of like judgment, of not readiness to die, of a lot of shame of things that maybe I didn't want my kids to know about myself or my husband to know about me. And when I woke up and as you know, with an infection, it's like you wake up and your body is trying to sweat it out. So
Mhm.
when I woke up from that breath work, and just remember, like you're not breath work isn't just designed to create stories about your experience, but in that moment, it reminded me of that experience when I just woke up just very diaphoretic, sweaty.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like this amazing connection to my body. It was like
Yeah.
this lightness as you now experience it. You can't explain it. You can't give reverence with words to the experience that you have of this oneness, lightness, this out of body experience where you are like being the observer of your experience, but with
Yeah.
like non-attachment,
Right.
just kind of observing, you know? And when you're like that, I've heard plant medicine does that. I haven't done that yet. But when you're like that, you're in like this compassionate peace about your entire life. And it sounds so crazy, but like really just to be in gratitude of, oh my God, like now I actually have felt what lightness feels like, what coming
Yeah.
home feels like. And once you've experienced that, there's like no turning back. There's just no turning back. You know what I mean? And then so
Yes.
it's like I reflect on the world of like the way I've been living. And not that, I mean, it took me a while to get to this place where I'm going to say to you now, it wasn't like I was still in judgment of it because there was so much of it, not understanding how to have a wider perspective. But now with all of this work, with breath work, with stabilizing the nervous system, what breath work does, so you can sit with the discomfort of letting all this kind of muckiness come up. And it's just a way of learning to be.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
that beingness is where you start to attract more of what you want in life. And that's really where my journey is right now. I just feel like everything has been a reflection of my beingness and not the doingness. Even though like you look at me and you look at the bio and I'm doing because it's something that I know is authentic to me because now I know what authenticity feels like. Like all in your book, we talk about embodiment, you know, and we talk about the imagination. And when you can feel like in your body what the qualities that you are calling in, that like life flows to you. That's ease. You
Mm-hmm.
know, does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Everything you said makes sense to me.
Oh.
I mean, it's I, I I wanted to ask a question about that too. Like, do you feel like when you woke up in that sweat, like it reminded you of that time in your life when you were going through that infection? Did you feel like your body was releasing that trauma on that? Yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And that's what these breath works that I do, that I guide in, they're designed. So when we talk about integration, well, what integration, how I like to describe it and how I've learned it to be is that, you know, so much of life is just polarity, right? You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's, you know, like the lunar, the solar, you know, the masculine, the feminine, the light, the dark, all of that. The integration piece is when we bring it together, take the gifts of both and we harmonize it right within our body. um and the gifts within the tension. Do you see what I'm saying? It's
Yes.
the gifts within the tension of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we um it's like we work with it and through it, so you're transcending with it, you're transforming with it, right? So because you're integrating it, but it's not easy because it so often doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
that tension. And that's why breath work for me with an overactive mind, and I'm very much a doer, doer, doer. That's how I've always been. Probably how I
Mhm.
got my necrotizing fasciitis, right? You know, who's training for a marathon when they're pregnant? Planning a marathon, gotta lose the weight, you know, still gonna breastfeed, gotta check the
Oh,
box, you
that's
know.
funny. Yeah.
But breath work just really just gives you that ability to sit with the discomfort of all that stuff that we judge ourselves on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. I love how you put it. Really, you put it beautifully. It's just learning how to be, and
Yeah.
that's so valuable in this day and age. I mean,
Yeah.
um, and it can create a lot more calm and groundedness into the body. And it's yeah, that tension. I know I feel that tension. I haven't done a large amount of breathwork sessions, but the ones I have done, I've felt that tension, and that now I kind of know how to recognize, okay, something big's about to happen because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling some tension in my body. And then, of course, then you learn. Actually, this is what I learned from it. You learn how to um, release it or relax into it in a way. Let it flow because really. Um, we can keep, I mean, we can keep suppressing and pushing and containing it. But this really interesting, when I went to Jamie's workshop in Ojai just recently. He had a breathwork guy there, and I cannot remember his name, but he was in a wheelchair. He was amazing, and he took us through this journey. And I had this message come through me right before, like right in the beginning of the breath work, when I was starting to feel this tension. It said, "You cannot contain this."
Let it go.
I was like,
Let it
"Oh,
go.
okay." That gave me permission to just be like, "Okay, well, I'll just not contain it then," you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring it into your field of awareness, right? Because it's there for
Yeah.
a reason. Otherwise, like you said, if you resist, avoid, numb it, it's going to keep coming up. It's going to keep coming up as those triggers, because that the integration is again too the unconscious and the conscious pieces
Yes.
of our beingness. It's just it's magnificent work. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I don't really think I do need drugs after going through the couple, the breathwork sessions, the two most powerful ones, yours and this guy, other facilitator. And it was just like, oh my God. Yeah. I don't think I need ayahuasca.
I
I
know,
could just
I
do
know,
breath work.
I know. Well, I know, right? I haven't done ayahuasca, and I've heard from people who have done it that's what these breathwork experiences feel like to them, and it's so much easier to integrate after. you
Yeah,
know.
totally. And I
Oh,
have noticed too, there is an integration process that is good to do afterwards, because you do feel out of sorts, I was just like, I don't know, I can't say any, because we were, you're
mhm.
just not in a logical state of mind after that. Because I mean, I went on this journey where I was like, it's too much to go into right now, but I'll stick with the experience I had with you, which was over Zoom. And it's just, yeah, you go out of body. You really do, in a way. You connect with your body, but you also are like, you're not grounded in your ego, I guess, as much. And so it takes a little bit of reintegration, I think, to much like it does when you go through ayahuasca or something like that. Like there's an, or even just a past life experience or past life hypnosis. It's a
Mhm.
similar thing. Like you're kind of traveling, and then you come back in. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. So I have a different perspective now. And I'm trying to, like, again, I'm in a body again. Okay, cool. you know,
No, I'm so glad
yeah.
you brought that up, because that integration piece it's really important. It's really powerful, because again, when you're saying, does your body need to release it? And that's the idea of like what causes like this disjointedness within our body, this disconnection within our body, this fragmentation within our body, are all these parts within ourselves that we resist and that we avoid and that we numb. And it just stays again out of our awareness. It's why it's called the unconscious material, right? Stuff that had happened to us like when we were young. And so when it does happen, if it happens, every breathwork experience will be different. If it does happen, it's really important to again not put the story to it, but look to it as it's surfacing for a reason to be healed, right?
Yes.
To
Yes.
come up. And that's again like where that lightness feels, like that less tension, because the tension comes from us holding in things that our body just wants to release, but we have just been conditioned in the past that we judge it. They're parts of our emotional needs that weren't met in some way or another. And so breath work again is just one practice. There's so many different practices out there, but it's just a sustainable practice because it's your breath, to be able again to start to explore your body, start to
Right.
explore emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and energetically, these layers of yourself. So when you're brave enough, when you're courageous enough, because it does take a lot of courage to explore the whole, coming back to wholeness again. It's But once you do, again, you feel that alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then when you're not aligned, then you can come
Mhm.
back in. And that's this idea where we're constantly growing. I was talking to one of my students today, And we talked about, it's like, you're doing the work, and all of a sudden you're feeling tense and you just feel like you're back to, back to the
Square
starting line
one.
again.
Yeah.
And you're like, but no, that's the idea is every time you're growing, you're like popping a growth ring, like in a tree, right?
Yeah.
Or you're like that lotus flower with all these petals that keep growing and growing and growing. But it just becomes an opportunity every single time to keep growing, to keep evolving, and
Absolutely. And then you
yeah.
could actually start looking at those things non-judgmentally too and be like, oh, okay, my body's doing this right now. All right, I wonder what that means, and just get curious about it. Cause
Yeah.
I feel like the curiosity aspect is so needed, especially when as it relates to all of this, instead of like you said, judging and trying to figure it out, like what's wrong with me,
Yeah.
how come I haven't, gotten past this? Like that's
Yeah.
it's more about like really just like, whoa, what could be happening right now? What's moving through? Like, I wonder,
Totally.
I feel like that's more that just feels better for me. And yeah, just the breath is helping you get familiar with your 0 point, like, like what like you said, what does it feel like to be in my own energy? How does it feel to can I direct my own energy? Can I with the breath? What I liked about your technique was it was and I believe you mentioned something about you did it has something to do with Course in Miracles, is that right? Or a course in or
Oh, yeah. So Course in Miracles, it's, one of those spiritual self-development courses that you can take, not self-paced because it's something that you do every day, but you can do it on your own. I've just happened to be doing it with Marianne Williamson,
Mm,
and she teaches it every day. And in Course in Miracles, it teaches you, this, what causes suffering is a separation. And then A Course in Miracles is then when we decide that we choose love over fear.
right, right, which is
So,
so needed right now. Like we need
yeah,
that's a great thing to
yeah,
think about. Um, but I loved your the sequences of breathing you had us go through. It was perfect. It was, and each one led up to the next one to really help direct that energy. It was wild. So yeah, that was amazing to be able to be a part of. Yeah. Do you want to
yeah.
talk about your technique or anything like that?
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, so I am a pause breath work. There's different breath practices out there. A lot of people are very familiar with Wim Hof,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that is working with your sympathetic nervous system, really stressing your nervous system. Pause breath work, we definitely start to learn to work with our nervous system, obviously, because it's our breath and we're learning to stabilize our nervous system. But the way that we craft it is called a journey. And so pause breath work, the founder is Samantha Skelly. And we take people on a journey. So if you just kind of think of a journey, like with a peak, as you're slowly starting to rise and you peak and then you come down. And you kind of think about also, I like to say now too, is with a hero's journey, if you're familiar with that, with
Yeah,
Joseph
yeah.
Campbell. So if you're just thinking about like a hero's journey, there's always going to be like, like the slow, like steady, like called it. It's like you have like a wound, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's something, there's something that's going to jolt your nervous system, that's going to there's no turning back, right? And then you're slowly going to start to, explore it, navigate it, and then you start to peak, and then you come down, and then you return, um, from learning how to navigate that obstacle, that journey, that call to, um, that call to grow. Right. You just
Yeah.
think about like the typical most common hero's journey would be like Luke Skywalker. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like
right.
something like that. And but like along the journey, what you find is that the heroes that come along the way, the resources that come along the way, whether it's Yoda or a lightsaber, those are all internal resources, right? But
Right.
so we craft on a journey. So it's like we slowly start to um, invite people into the breath because our minds are so overactive. Our thinking mind is going to be like, why are you breathing? What's going on? My mouth is dry. I've never breathed like this. I have all these tingling now. This isn't safe. And you slowly start to breathe. You slowly start to draw people, invite people into the breathwork journey and have them concentrate on the breath so they start to release the thinking mind.
Yes.
And then we slowly start to peak up, and I change beats per minute in music, change different soundtracks, because beats per minute is designed to you actually, it's been scientifically shown to tolerate pain more. And so we just start to explore more, deep into the journey, and then we slowly start to integrate kind of introspective, and then you ground in.
Oh,
And
wow. Yeah.
that's a journey. So it's all crafted with intention. It's all crafted, you know, custom to what you want the intention to be.
Yeah.
And
That's
so we were
incredible.
doing the artist way. We were doing the artist way. So it was a lot
Yeah.
about what was that week, that theme? I forgot what it was already. It was
Me
so
too.
I had it titled like the artist way. I forgot.
Yeah. It was, yeah, I'm trying to remember the theme of that week too. But I have to look back
Yeah.
on that.
I know.
But
It's
it doesn't, I
designed.
don't know if it
Yeah.
matters.
No, I know, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like you can design it. You can design it for grief. You can design it for
Yeah.
self-compassion. You can design it for empowerment. You can design it for. I mean, it's so cool, fascinating, empowering, intriguing. Of again, how you focus your energy of what you actually get to craft, what you actually get to create. What's the opportunity in this? You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, and it's just like it's such a great thing to experience. I absolutely just I'm a new lover of breath work now. I didn't think I'd love it so much, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, go
You
ahead.
love the feeling. It's like you love the feeling.
Yes, yes. It is a way to just kind of let your mind go, like you said, and remember that your energy, right? Because we're not really our minds. Our minds are tools to help us navigate this reality and to create things, but it's not who we are, right? So we get to let that go of who we thought we were in that moment and then be who we really are
Yeah.
in some ways, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So
I
good.
I wanted to talk a little bit about too, how are you using astrology in your work right now? And
Yeah, I never in a million years would have thought that I would have been an astrologer. Oh my gosh. I know. I'm like, how did this happen? Talk about like husband, guess what I'm doing now? Well, so I started crafting breath work after I had my certification on the new moons and full moons. And
okay.
it just made sense to me to like when I was starting to, really wanting to practice and deepen my own work. And I was drawn by, I think I had somehow, it's like one of those things. It's like you're drawn to something and then you start exploring it. And I liked the idea of having intentional breath work every single month or every single cycle. So we would do a breath work on the new moon and the
Idea.
full moon. And I, when you're doing the spiritual work, you're doing all this light work. You're listening to all the podcasts, and I was listening to, I think at one point it was the Align podcast. And I heard from an astrologer who I was just drawn to, like how like I've done some human design, and I've done like a lot of mapping systems, so it's helpful, like the Enneagram and all
Yes.
that. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I've never had my astrology chart read. Like, what the heck is that? And Leslie Galbraith, she's actually one of my mentors. I had her on my podcast, and it was just so fascinating that from your astrological chart, your energetic blueprint, you are able to it's your unique blueprint. So when you
Mm,
were born, it's your blueprint of your energy. So when you think about energy, you think,
yeah.
do you have more fire? Do you have more air? Do you have more earth? Do you have more water? And when you think
Yeah.
about when you think about within those, are you more stubborn? Do you have a lot of energy? Are you intuitive? Are you so overactive and anxious in your mind? I was kind of fascinated by that because most of us, we just know our sun sign, right?
Right.
And so when we look at our chart, so basically the answer is yes, because I started deepening this work when I was doing these breath works on the new moon and full moons. I wanted to be come with integrity about like,
Yeah,
what am I,
right.
why am I doing on these new moons and full moons? And as I was doing them and as we're going through the season, I was learning about the seasons, and I was like, wow, that's just so fascinating. And Allison, it is just a magnificent way of deepening the masculine feminine energies.
Yeah.
If you actually just, you don't have to know like astrology, because astrology, people, it's a pseudoscience, right?
Mhm.
But it's an ancient wisdom of using that pseudoscience to not dictate your life, but to give you information on your overall nature and how you can best use your gifts. And
I love that.
it creates a sense of, oh, these are my gifts, and this is the tension in my life. And those gifts, sometimes people would, I used to feel ashamed by it because some people would think, again, Tanya, why are you planning a marathon when you're still pregnant? Tanya, why do you like to work this much? Tanya, why are you always doing things? Like, why are you always doing things? And it's because, or like, why don't you want to be at home? You're a Cancer, like your son's in Cancer. You should just want to be at home and be a mother, and like be at work in the house and nurture your kids and cook and all that stuff. And that's just like a small piece of me.
Right.
So when I actually had my chart right, I was like, oh, it just created so much self-acceptance and compassion, and then like this deeper understanding, like this like, oh my God, these really are my gifts. And this is actually my calling, and why I'm doing this. Like, this is actually why I'm doing this. And
Yeah.
I'm going to own it. You know what I mean? I'm going to own it.
Right. Yes.
And so yeah, so I use, how I use it is, I I'm a positive neuroplasticity teacher to Dr. Rick Hansen. He's fascinating. I found him through my yoga psychology,
Uh-huh.
through Ashley Turner. And he has something called the heal practice. So positive neuroplasticity, it's been around. We know that we can work with we know that our minds are biased to the negative.
Right.
That's been studied, scientific papers. We know, just look at your life. It's like we're constantly thinking the same thing. And it's like, we have 60, like 90% of all of our thoughts that are firing are always the same thoughts. And they're usually wired from our past, which is why, again, breath work is so important in all this,
Mhm.
to be able to work with our nervous system, right? To really go, this is your present, you're basically okay now. That is all from your past. But
Yeah.
the idea with positive neuroplasticity is that we can learn to direct our thinking, right? So we create new thinking, to create new wiring, to create new neural structures, to create a new way of being, basically,
Yeah.
we're installing new states, these new qualities, these embodiment qualities that we want to cultivate. So he has something called the heal practice, and that is, um, the way to be able to change our way of thinking is to be able to call in new experiences, to create new
Right.
experiences,
Yeah.
and or notice them, or just notice them.
Mhm.
So what I do is that every new moon, we call in a new experience. New moons are about new initiations, fresh starts, um, intentions, right?
Yeah.
And so H is for having an experience. We have an experience over this cycle, 29 and a half days. And that's the E, is that we enhance it. So we're really enhancing this experience over 29 and a half days. Right. And then what are you growing? So then when you start to absorb it. So when you think about absorbing, you kind of think about like a sponge for 29 and a half days, like this, just to make it easy. We're in Taurus season. It just happened yesterday. We've now moved from Aries season to Taurus season. We've moved from fire into earth. And so from Aries season, spring equinox, it's all about go, 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 activation, new intentions, that kind of newness kind of energy. This Taurus season, this new moon in Taurus that's going to happen, it's going to be about a new initiation in slowness.
Oh, I'm
Right?
feeling that.
Yeah,
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 totally.
in earth, right? And if you
Yeah.
think about Taurus, it's a slowness in your foundations, in your values, and
Yeah.
in your money. And
Yeah.
so it's an opportunity to call in, have a new experience within like these qualities specific to a cycle. And
Right.
when we do that, we do that every cycle. So you do it every, for a whole year, you start to create more harmony within your life. So you're not always focusing on the same thing.
Yeah, you're seeing the cycle. Like I think
Yeah.
that's what we forget a lot of times in life is that life is a whole big cycle of
Yeah.
of different cycles. But yeah, we tend to think it like should continue to grow and it's a linear kind of growth and all of that. But no, like it's there's times to do different things, like to really be very active. There's times to rest more. Just if you just think of even seasonally, how we can look at that. But yes, every month we all go as women, we go through this in our own cycles,
Yeah.
and it is a reflection of everything else. And so that's so interesting that you're saying that we're going into Taurus,
We
which is
did. Yeah.
slowing down. Like, what does that
Yeah.
mean for you? Would you mind sharing? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Totally. It's so interesting. So we went into it yesterday, and because it just creates a level of mindfulness. Like when I'm now that I know, I never cared about nature in the past. It was never nurtured to me.
Yes.
It wasn't anything. I never wanted to be barefoot in nature. And now it's just like I'm exploring it and I can't get enough of being outside and exploring it. And so from Aries season, it's like I launched a new mastermind, and it was very much of it, when you think of like Aries of spring, of that kind of fiery masculine energy, it's very much go, initiating, warrior kind of activity. And then we moved into Taurus season. And Taurus season, when you say it's earth, you just think we now moved from masculine to feminine. So it's more of like, again, just receiving. And like simple examples was like yesterday, I'm training. Listen, I'm training for another marathon. Slowing down. This is not an example of that. I promise it is, but it's so funny. So, but yesterday I was supposed to do 16 miles, and
Okay,
we had
yeah.
just traveled, and I like my normal like doer would be like, you just got to do it. You just got to do it. And there's a part of me that really embraces and feels empowered by that.
Mhm.
But then I was just like listening to my body yesterday, and I was and I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to run slow. So,
That's a way to go about it.
so then I was running slow on the treadmill. Then I realized, like, I was like, I don't want to do this. You know what? I don't want to do it right now. I'm
Right.
not going to shame myself. I'm just going to go slow, and I'm going to do. I only ran 8. And I think that sounds funny for like, I only ran 8. But for me, it was really just listening and honoring my body.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting too is that I've been really into the sensual organs. So really learning, looking at every moment just to smell something. And
Oh,
when we look at
yeah.
to smell something, it becomes like this immediate present moment because it's going to pass. And that's something that I learned from, gosh, she wrote the Happiness Project. She's just Gretchen, I think her name is. I
I know
forget.
who you're talking about. I believe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's fabulous, but she's got the Happiness Project, and she, Dr. Rick Hansen interviewed her, and I listened to her on one of my courses, and I was just so fascinated by these little things that we can do. This is the idea of positive neuroplasticity, just little things that we can do and teach, and really let it absorb. And so, bringing in nature with just our senses,
Yeah.
like smelling things, eating slow.
Yes.
Allison, I am always on the go. I'm always on the go. So being a nurse anesthetist, it's like we have 15-minute breaks, we
Yeah.
have 30-minute lunches, and that includes going to the bathroom and eating. I
Oh
said,
my God.
did you,
It's not
did
enough
you ever
time for
read the book?
anything.
Did you ever read the book? Oh my God, Fix Your Period.
Oh, I don't think I read
Oh my
that.
God,
No.
fabulous. She's so fabulous. Nicole Hardin.
Okay. Yeah.
And so one of her teaching points is that you have to chew like 40 bites or
Oh,
something. And
yeah.
I was like,
We used to
there's
have this saying in holistic nutritional lifestyle coaching. It was drink your food. I think, no, wait, now I can't remember wait, chew. I don't know. You're supposed to chew it till it's liquefied, in other
yeah,
words. So, that many times. And I'm like, God,
yes,
that sounds like a lot of work, you know?
totally. I was like, Nicole, I do not have like I can't even go to the bathroom.
I
I said
know.
40 times. I'm like, but so I'm really being intentional of just trying to eat slow
Yeah.
and just sitting, so just Taurus is slow. It's refinement. It's beauty.
Mm,
It's creativity. It's so
yeah.
um, bringing that in. So slow money, it's your values, learning your money story.
Oh, right. That's all the stuff I've been working on
Yeah.
lately. And I talk about that in my book too, because at the time when I was writing the book, it was like I felt like that slow time, and I was really loving it because I'd sit out on my porch and I'd do some writing and I'd watch nature, like all the birds and everything, just like because if we're not slowing down, we're not really seeing what we don't see. Like we're missing out on all these synchronicities in our lives and everything that's happening all around us. Um, and even if you don't have that much time to eat your food or do a meal like that, sit down with it, bless it, have some appreciation before you actually put it in, because yeah, that is a very important thing to be slow with your food, because your body, you're taking in your body's assimilating that with your cells in the body, and it needs to feel like that's something that that you're welcoming in your body. And so slowing it down is going to help with digestion in just in that respect. If and
Yeah.
so it's that's actually the thing that I'm really working with people mostly on with my nutrition clients, is slowing down.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, they're like, oh, this is actually really, this is helping so much. I'm like, yeah, because we need to be in a parasympathetic nervous system mode to take in our food, to
Yeah.
be able to rest and digest, to be able to relax, to enjoy our life. So it's like, this is where I think we're heading, and it's the timing is perfect. So I'm loving this conversation right now.
It does, yeah, and it allows for that creativity to come through when you're
Yes.
slow, because it is activating that wing of your nervous system, what you're saying. It
Yeah.
is, and it's so fascinating, and it really is just, it's such a time just to get clear on your self-worth when you're slow. Yeah, so that's what I'm
Yeah.
focusing on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like the concentration on your money stories and your kind of checking your self-worth. It's a great time for reflection.
Yeah.
We rarely get reflection time. Like I wrote about this in the book too a lot. And that's why each chapter is some kind of a reflection or inspired action step, because um we're not given a lot of space for that in our lives, I've noticed, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's so
absolutely.
important. It's so important.
So important. Yeah, because that in that space, what you're saying, in that slowness, in that creativity, in that spaciousness, that's where your inspired action is going to come from. It
Yes.
is inspired because that's at the higher vibration. That's going to be a match to whatever it is. It's not that chaos.
Yeah, if you're just busy just to be busy, then you're good. It's and that's just a response to trying to suppress something, right? So um it's and I'm a doer too. I'm a past doer, and I'm really actually in this part of my life, I'm really enjoying the being a lot, um and receiving. I think also the receiving aspect is important with the doing. So if you're doing and giving all the time and you're not learning how to receive, like you're saying, like you're learning more, you're reflecting on your life, your stories, and then the receiving the good things that come from that, those opportunities as you open that up, right? The breathing work is all about that. um and that's where the magic happens, but we miss out on the magic if we're just doing all the time and we're not receiving, right?
No, and then it's like, what's the point then? And what's the
Yeah,
oh,
totally.
so
Well,
funny.
I know. um yeah, so oh my goodness, and that I love that you're trying to do a marathon again, that you're doing a
I'm
marathon again. That's
slowing down.
great.
Like, well, I'm training for a marathon. Like, that's
That was perfect. That was so awesome. Um, all right. So I really, are you still teaching yoga with your breath work too? And
so the way that I teach the yoga is the yoga psychology.
oh
So
yeah, okay. I
it
want to hear more about that actually.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
the energetics of it, really looking to, with yoga, it's like the yoking again, coming back to what we were saying,
Mhm.
with the Course in Miracles, what causes suffering is the separation, right?
Yeah.
Separation within ourselves, separation from another person. And with yoga, this is like the integration of our unconscious and our conscious, and within ourselves, all our different energetics, like our physical body, our energetic body, our mental emotional body, and our wisdom body. And then when that's integrated, when we feel into our higher self that is connected to divine energy, to source, to holiness, that's how I teach it through the work.
Okay.
With,
Yeah.
with certain mudras I teach, and like mantra work, not Sanskrit. So mantra work within the breath work, that's just a piece that is designed with pause breath work. It's another way to train the mind and how we craft the intention. So
So you
always a
do like
mantra.
chants or something like that? Is that what you're saying? Or no?
No, I'm trained in that. That hasn't no, but when I was saying with breath work, like I can't remember like what I did. Maybe I can't. I am connected. I think we did. Oh, I think it was a connection week. It was
What
connection.
it
So
was. Okay. I had that word in my head when we were
yeah,
talking about that. And I was like, something about connection, but I couldn't remember
yeah,
like but maybe that it was just about connection, because
yeah,
I definitely got connected that week.
yeah. It was yeah, connection, like a connection, a reconnection to your
Yeah,
creativity.
that's
And when
right.
you take those words and however you want to do it, I use it over and over again, and I'll build on it. That's what I do for
Mhm.
the breathwork journey. But specifically for yoga psychology, I'll do like specific mudras. We do mudras all the time. They're just hand gestures, the way to direct our energy. The simple one, just hands over your heart, or you could just do, like the lotus, or you can do like the Kali. You know,
Yeah.
when we work on our voices, I'll do
Each one
that.
has like a different intention. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I'll do more of isolated asana practices, just so that it's actually when you're actually working with your physical body, using your physical body as a tool and instrument to sit with attention. It's actually really cool to use your breath, right? That's
Yes.
what yoga is designed to do. But then over time, it's really cool to use it also psychologically as a reflection of what's going on in your mind and what's
Yeah.
going on psychologically, like in your body. Because when you just think about your energy line, your chakras, and when you think about where it's aligned, um, physically in the endocrine system,
Mhm.
when it's an easier way to guide, like how I'm going to like craft like the actual session. Like, let's just say if I'm just going to work on my throat chakra, you know what I mean? I'll just focus on that and opening it, and
Yeah.
using you know words and to open it. But that's how I use this yoga psychology.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Man, you have so many
Yeah.
tools. It's
It's like a
amazing.
it's like it's like a bridge of yoga psychology of Eastern and Western practices. Again, like um using the Western medical model and then using the Eastern practices to integrate. So
Oh,
again, like Jungian material too, like so the shadow work, the
yeah.
Western material. And uh
So, so
it's
my
just so cool.
next
It's
question
so
is
much.
like,
It's just so
what
much. Yeah.
are you doing that and still a practicing nurse and doing all this other stuff too?
I
Or
do. Here's what I say about, well, because I do have my rising signs in Capricorn, so I definitely need that security and stability. And anesthesia is,
oh yeah.
I do love it. Why I wanted to leave full time is because I have to be in the hospital. That's not something I could do from home. And
Yes.
with three children, and my husband does the same thing. So it was always a desire of mine to have more time flexibility. But I love it for several reasons. Is because one, I mean, it's a really fulfilling profession, and it also keeps me in the human world, right? So when I'm
Yeah.
always surrounded by spiritual people and people who are always working on themselves, light work, and that when you're around like people who aren't in that space, it definitely keeps me in like, not from drinking like the spiritual Kool-Aid kind of thing.
Yeah, I
Right?
get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes so
So
much sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I do it. I do it 2 days a week, and then I
Oh,
have
cool.
I have my own business, and then I also mentor for the students at Pause Breathwork. So it's just like
Oh,
this beautiful
nice.
combination.
Yeah, it sounds great. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got a great balance there. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's fulfilling.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been such an incredible conversation. I've learned so much. And as you and I spoke, I wanted to let everybody know that you're going to be coming on to the Finally Thriving program as a guest speaker to do a breathwork session with us, which will be a bonus. And that's going to be amazing. I can't wait for you to be a part of that. So very exciting. Yeah.
I'm super stoked. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, Will you please leave my audience with a way to find you, what you're offering presently, and how they can, do a breathwork session with you at some point?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I always offer single breathwork sessions. So if you want to experience that, I'll give you a code for 20% off, Allison. I'll
Okay.
put that, you can put that in your show notes. If you want an astrology reading, that's in there as well. I have a mastermind that I do every season. So it's closed now because we started in Aries season. So every season for 13 weeks, it's called Master Your Mind Mastermind. So
Cool.
we do breath work, we work with the cycles, we work with the positive neuroplasticity, we work with intention, with your magic, everything like in your book of like, oh my God, it's like so check, 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 right? Yeah. So that's currently what I do. So breath work, astrology, and then a mastermind that won't open again until summer season. So that would be
Nice.
Cancer season.
Yeah.
The June 21st would be the launch to that. So like every 13 weeks, I take people through um, truly it's like mastering your mind,
I love it.
beautiful through the season, and then you get to learn all the different elements too, learn within
Yeah.
yourself. So that's where you can find me. TanyaSaunders.com is where everything is, but I'll give you the link.
Perfect. Do
Yeah,
you have an Instagram account as well?
do.
Yeah.
I do. So I think it is Tanya_Saunders
Okay.
under there. I'll give you the link to that. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Wonderful.
absolutely.
Oh my God.
Thank
What a great
you.
opportunity for people to learn more about their cycles and the cycle of life and the elements. Oh my God. There's very few in places that you'll have that experience, I feel like, with everything that you're offering. So amazing. And June is not that far away. So it's right around the corner.
Yeah, I know, right? Yes. Yeah.
um, cool. So thank you again, Tanya. It was an honor to have you on my show and share all your wisdom. Thanks again for coming on.
Oh man, it was an honor and it was so much fun. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
You're welcome.